Hi, guys, and welcome to the Horror Room. So, this week I thought we'd talk about something a little different. Now, obviously, you can tell I have a huge love for horror movies, horror collectibles. But what about horror music? Now, I'm not talking about soundtracks to movies and stuff. We will eventually get to that, but I'm talking about a genre of music that most people probably aren't as into, and that's horrorcore. Um, which obviously, if you like rap and hip hop stuff, it's basically just that, but with a darker flair. A lot of the underground stuff, especially in the horrorcore scene, can get little dicey, a little offensive. But there's some great artists out there. So if you're into the hip hop and rap and stuff like that, you're doing yourself a disservice not to at least listen to some of the lyrics and stuff that some of these artists come up with. So I thought I would do a little deep dive over the next week or two, and we're going to talk about horrorcore because it's a big part of my life. Now, I didn't get into it until I want to say in my mid 20s. Mid 20s, I had a guy I used to work with, and he did it. So like I kind of went over and kind of seen what they did, and I got really interested in it. And then I just kind of dived headfirst into the backlog of different music and stuff. Um, One artist that a lot of people, used to consider horrorcore was Tech Nine, but obviously he just kind of dabbles in a bunch of different types of music. But I thought we'd focus solely on the groups that that I have experience with because there's a ton of stuff out there and I can't cover it all. Um, so I would say if you like any of the ones that I'm showing and recommend, do your own research, look around. There's tons of other artists out there. Many great ones. You might find one that fits your style a little more, you know. And obviously, being a horrorcore artist, they tend to sample a lot from horror movies or horror songs. So that can be really fun to kind of say, oh, I recognize this from this movie. Or, ooh, that was really good, like a little bit of dialogue on there. What was that from? So that can be kind of fun. But first off, we're going to talk about some of the more mainstream, I guess, if you want to say they're mainstream. And we can't do that without talking about one of the first bands that groups that kind of popularized it, besides ICP. I'm not a big ICP fan. If you are, hey, good on you. But that is Gravediggers. This is their 6 Feet Deep album. This is some good stuff. If you're into older hip hop stuff, like I'd say early 90s, stuff like that. I mean, even up until the late 90s. This is really good. It does have some darker themes and stuff, but this is early horrorcore, so it's not as crazy as some of the other stuff we're going to talk about. But I can definitely say Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide, 1-800 Unalive. I'm going to just be careful, but you know what word they're going for. Bang Your Head, and Death Trap. Those are some good ones that I like off of here. But yeah, Gravediggers. Good album. Next, we have one that he's a California native. He did come over to Strange Music, which is the company that Tech Nine helps run. And I got his albums when he was with Strange Music, and that's Brother Lynch Hung. Really, really love Brother Lynch Hung's music. I don't have a lot of his older stuff, but I have listened to it, and I mean, this is right in line. It's just a little more polished. This album, my favorite song is Nutbag. I constantly playing that one. I think they sampled part of it from the Spanish Dracula soundtrack, and it's awesome. And then you have the Coat Hanger Strangler. This one's a great album too. Manable Lecter. Look, It's a Dead Body. Taking online orders. Some good stuff. But basically, I do have the third one. I just couldn't find it, and I wanted to get this video. And I think the third one is the oh gosh, it's literally the last album he done. I think it is Manable Lecter. I think it is because it's got the black background with the mask. And I did get that one signed. I went to a concert and got to meet him, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, Brother Lynch Hung. He's a great artist. He's got some great style flow. Now we're gonna move on to the more underground stuff. Like I said, I'm not covering every single artist that ever did horrorcore ever. Just the stuff I have, and we're moving on to one of the biggest names in the underground scene. If you know who LSP is, and that's Lyrical Snuff Productions, then you obviously are familiar with Scum. And Scum is one of my favorite artists. And actually got him to sign the CD. Went to a concert, got to meet him. Obviously had to get some of this. Enforcer is probably my favorite track on here. Life Sick is pretty good. Off the Hinges. I love Off the Hinges. There's a lot of good songs on here. And obviously you can tell there's a bigger gore influence on their CDs. Especially Scum's albums. Here we have Mr. Zipperface. And that's a really creepy, awesome cover. This one has Nail in the Coffin, which is a great one. You got Lobotomy. You got Going Home. Mr. Zipperface, of course. It's a great little... It's a shorter album, but it's pretty good. And then you have Snuff HD, which I'm going to have to cover part of because it's got some pretty graphic stuff on it. But, yeah, you got their little pendant right there, which is pretty cool. And what can I say? This is a fantastic album. Pigs. You got Scream featuring Geno Cultshit. You got I Don't Want to Hurt You, Disgusting, Never Caught, Final Thoughts. It's an all-around great album. And he's released quite a few more since this album. I'm a little behind. Obviously, being an adult, money's a bit tight, so I can't run off and buy every single album that everybody I like drops. But I can listen to it. I can spread the word and say, hey, check them out. Same goes with Scum's group that he does with Insane Poetry called MMMFD. So Triple M FD. That's Make My Motherfucking Day. Yeah, so you got this album, the hand-drawn art. It's going to be a little hard to see. I'm sorry. But this is a fantastic album. This is one of my favorite ones. It's got Bathe in Your Tears, Get in the Van, Burn 'Em at the Stake. And it's got a couple other songs. Try Unalive. You know what I'm saying. Nail in the Coffin's on here again. But this one is the version with Prozac, which is pretty cool. Then you have Life Sick with Liquid Assassin. But this is a good one. And then they followed it up with Unsubs, which I absolutely love the artwork on the front. You got, various serial killers and stuff like that. This is another great album. Body in the Trunk is a great song. Fresh Meat is probably my favorite one. But there's so much. Kill Switch, Engaged, Never Seen Again, Impulse to Kill, Dead Man Walking. Great album. Next, we're coming up on a group which you saw. If you know who they are, you probably recognize the thumbnail. And that is Dark Half. And then I have this Cultshit mask that I made that I got most of the artists to sign, except for one, which we will get to. But you have, right here, you have Dark Half Chapters. This is a awesome, awesome album. My favorite track of all, though, is Just Another Death featuring Monster Squad. Now, we will get to Monster Squad, because I actually kind of know who they are. But Dark Half, I've met them. Man, Geno and Damien, I almost forgot his name. Obviously not maybe real names, but really, really nice guys in person. And that's the whole horrorcore scene, honestly. You might hear some of this music and go, man, these people are sick in the head. They rap about this disgusting, vile stuff. They got to be an asshole or hard to be around. Couldn't be further from the truth. Scum, he's like a 7 foot. Okay, he's probably not 7 foot, but he's like 6-something Russian dude with dreads. And from afar, you're like, oh, that guy looks serious. I better watch out. But dude is super nice, super humble. That's with a lot of these artists. There's a few underground artists that I'm not going to name names, but I've met or seen in concert, and they kind of act like, they're above everybody just because they do music. But, most of these people, they do it because they love it. I mean, if you can get paid to do it, even better. I'm I know when I did it, I wasn't really making any money. I pressed CDs and I'd practically just give them away to my friends. Um, Made a little bit of sales here and there on like some CDs, and I used to make masks and sell those, but never made like any shirts or anything like that. I went and did shows with my friends when they were doing shows, and it was just kind of like, hey, I'm just having fun. I'm glad to be a part of the show. So yeah, I always thought that was a fun time, no matter what. Next, we have the Hemingway Solution Mixtape 2010. I cannot show you the cover of this album because it features a unalived person missing their cabeza. But this is a great one. Lots of good songs on here. I thought there was one with, I guess not. Well, I guess Chapters was the one that Monster Squad was on. But this is a great album. Said, sorry, I can't show you the cover, but I'm sure you could Google it or find them on, whatever social platform they're on nowadays, or at least for their older music and stuff. And then Dark Half. This was the last album, I believe, that they released together. Geno and Damien. I got it signed by both of them when I met them. Heard them perform a lot of the songs from this album live, and that's what made me go, I got to get this album. Plus, it was around the time I was just getting into horrorcore, and they were one of the first names that popped up, like, hey, you got to check these guys out. And I was like, oh, yeah, definitely. And I love this little insert thing. It says, did you ever think as a hearse goes by that you may be next to die? Got that cool little toe tag thing, got their CD art. So, yeah, Dark Half, fantastic. If you like Scum, they're another artist featured on the LSP label. And then, of course, one half... Well, I mean, they both did their own separate projects. Damian Quinn did his own projects. And then we have Geno Cultshit. Now, this was the last CD project. Well, okay, maybe it wasn't the last, because I know he did stuff with Liquid Assassin, who also is part of LSP now. But this is one of the last Dark Half-esque albums that he put out before he passed away. Yes. So this is a fantastic album. You can really tell he put everything he had into the songs. There's some raw emotions in some of these tracks that, are a little sad, now since he's passed away. But it's also... what better way to make an impact with your music, than leaving behind something as amazing as this album. And I can't stress enough, if you're just getting into horrorcore, this is a must-have. Like, if you're not a fan of Dark Half, you should be, because honestly, he sings and stuff on there too. Damien's just as good. His solo stuff is great. But I'm telling you, you're missing out if you don't at least check out the Geno Cultshit solo CD, because you're missing some amazing work, especially like Runaway, which most people who know who he is would obviously know that. And finally, we're going to wrap up this part of the video by talking about another group that was huge back in the day. Now, I'm a bit of a novice with info, so don't quote me. I'm not a Wikipedia article. I have these CDs. I bought them from one half of the group, and that is the Kryptik albums. This is A Tale of Two Killers. Now, I will be the first to admit I've bought these, and I've not listened to them as often as I should. I do know that I liked some of the songs on here a lot, and another album, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But they are made by two horrorcore artists who also work individually, and that would be Ruckus and also Comatose. And Comatose is my absolute, hands down favorite underground artist, because between my friends and seeing what they were doing and listening to his stuff, that's what really got me hooked into horrorcore. And it got to the point where I eventually covered a Comatose song, but we will talk about that when we get to the more personal music experience stuff. But right here we have a great title for an album based off of a great movie. I can't talk. Kryptik, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. And this is a good one too. There's a lot of songs that I couldn't tell you off the head, but I think this is one that has... one of these albums has a song that samples the movie Brain Scan. Is it Brain Scan? Hold on. Oh, yeah, right here. Brain Scan. It samples basically the theme song from Brain Scan. And Brain Scan has some really good music, and it fits right into the horrorcore genre. And, you know, a lot of these horror movies, they do have obscure soundtracks and stuff. Like, you'll hear a lot of people sampling, like, Fulci stuff or John Carpenter. But obviously, if you're sampling, like, a Halloween soundtrack, you're in risk of getting, you know, copyright strikes or demonetized or whatever if you're uploading them on here. Now, I have some stuff that I've sampled from, but I don't sell any of my music anymore. It's just available to listen to. If I can remember to, I'm going to leave links to those albums in the next video's description, because it's going to be, that's basically what I'm going to be talking about. But anything that you're hearing me talk about in this video, you can most guaranteed look it up on YouTube. Most of it, anyways. Not sure about the Kryptik stuff, but here we have Kryptik from the Beyond, the 7 Songs of Death. Modeled after, of course, 7 Doors of Death. Lucio Fulci classic movie. Also goes by the Beyond. And then you have Kryptik, the Last Horror Show. I really like the design of the cover. It kind of gives the old illusion of like an old newspaper. Got like the quotes, the now showing. It's even got like the theater thing on the back. But yeah, like I said, these are all great albums. I've listened to them once or twice. I need to sit down and, you know, listen to these more often. And then you have Kryptik, Leftovers. Here's another one that I don't think I can show. It just depicts a body in a luggage case. It's not like real, but it's drawn, and I believe it's from a manga or something like that. But it's pretty graphic. But yeah, I would definitely recommend these albums. Now we are going to continue to talk about Comatose' solo releases as well as another duo thing, but that'll be for the next video because that's going to lead into the more personal stuff. I just wanted to make this one kind of split them up half and half because I didn't think that this would be like a 3-part video. No need for that. And trying to, you know, obviously find different things to talk about every weekend. It can get a little hard, and I figured, you know what? I don't think I've ever talked about my horrorcore collection or my history with it. So I said, hey, why not? This is the perfect time to maybe introduce some of you guys to a new genre of music you can listen to. And like I said, it's not for everyone. It can be a little bit jarring, disturbing, offensive, upsetting. But if you watch horror movies, it's basically the same thing, except you're listening to it. And if you listen to music like to digest the information and process, oh, is there a story here? Is there a theme? Is there some message that I'm not getting because I'm just looking at the surface? Most music, I mean, there are some genres out there, or you can hear a song and go, okay, this is just about, somebody killing somebody or doing something horrible. But you can find sprinkling of, people using good lyricism, trying to tell a good story, even just the music. A lot of times, that's all you need is a really good beat and makes the whole song feel perfect. But hey, thanks for watching the video. Like I said, next week we're going to dive into the rest of the Comatose stuff, as well as some personal stuff from my history with the genre, and might have a few stories to share. But hey, also check on the posts. Sometimes I'll post some little trivia. Maybe I'll do a horrorcore related one. And then sometimes I've been posting some shorts. If I can, maybe I'll do a short with some music, some free advertising. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.